Tokyo Avengers. And before you guys do the comments, I just want to say, I love this anime, and Season 2 is awesome right now. But this video will be focused on the manga, and especially the ending of this awesome show. And by the way, this video is sponsored by me. Nobody else would sponsor me, but what you could do is subscribe and destroy that like button. Let's have a quick recap of Tokyo Avengers Season 1 and Season 2. And this is by memory, so don't quote me. But basically, the main character is a bum, scratching his ass and eating potato chips in his 20s. But then he realizes that his ex-girlfriend was just game over by the Tokyo Manji game, Toman. But he spends the rest of the time bothered by the fact. But he went to the train station, somebody pushes him off, and Train-kun runs over his ass. And he gets sent back in time, where his hair changed like a Super Saiyan, and he went back to high school. But stuff happens, and just to run it down, he was just a shitty delinquent who barely knew how to fight. And one day he's fighting the wrong people and gets destroyed. But this tiny ass motherfucker Mikey comes around Draken, and they whoop that big guy, and Mikey says, "Hey, you remind me of my older brother. Now come and join my gang and be my bitch." And it was actually the same gang that killed his ex. So obviously Takemichi joins it and then murders his ex. The end. I'm joking. But he does join the gang to stop the murder from happening. But let's just skip all this boring stuff and go to the MVP of Season 1, Baji. We first get introduced to Baji as he jumps off a car and does some WWE shit on some other gang members in a fight. But even after that, Takemichi follows this banana man, Kazutora, to a weird-ass gang place, and he finds Baji absolutely pummeling some kid. And this weird motherfucker Hanma, who is the leader of Valhalla, and he says for Baji to kill Takemichi, I think. But of course Baji punches Takemichi a couple times, and finally joins Valhalla. Then later, some bruised guy on a swing is like, "Yo, Takemichi, Baji's so cool, right?" And Takemichi's like, "Wait, what? He just fucked me up, and wait, you're the one getting pummeled. How can you say he's cool?" Then my man Chifuyu says Baji's just being a spy. Because there's a little bitch, Kisaki. Man, I hate Kisaki. He saw Kisaki manipulating Mikey and wanted to help him. So that's cool. But we time skip some later, and there's the fight with Valhalla vs. Toman. And this fight was fire. We had guys flying left and right. We even had some people pulling out knives in a fist fight. But basically, Baji caught Kisaki lacking and whacked him with a steel pipe. And Chifuyu and Takemichi were just trying to save Baji. And this sly-ass banana, Kazutora, shanks Baji. What the fuck? But Baji, being the goat he is, says it's only a scratch, and murks all 50 members of the 3rd Division with just a steel pipe, and almost kills Kisaki if it wasn't for that stab wound. And that stab wound was not only a scratch, as Baji falls to the ground coughing blood, and Kisaki won. And then Mikey wakes up and one-shots Hanma, then proceeds to punch Kazutora until he's dead. But Takemichi, not being able to mind his goddamn business, stops Mikey. The gods were on Kazutora's side because Baji got back up and told Mikey that he won't die to a shitty fucking knife wound, and stabs himself. By proving his point that Kazutora didn't kill him and he died in his own hands. Kazutora stays with Baji until the police show up and they arrest Kazutora, and Mikey and everyone else leaves. Wait, hold on, I'm getting some news now. Takemichi becomes the 1st Division captain of Toman? What? And so Takemichi goes back to the present with his girlfriend's little brother and finds out now he's a shitty gang leader. And was a dickhead this whole time and killed his ex. Bro, I was joking about that. But he did kill his ex and basically killed Chifuyu. And Chifuyu was actually betraying Toman with Kazutora to save Mikey, since Mikey had disappeared. On that day, everyone that started Toman were murdered. Kisaki then kills Chifuyu and almost kills Takemichi until Kazutora saves him. Then he goes back in time and is bullied with Hinata. Then he finds the Black Dragon member from the future and sings with him in bowling. And that man is Hakai. This motherfucker was destroying Takemichi and everything like bowling and whack-a-mole. And then he gets wrecked by the current Black Dragon leader, Taiju. Then Taiju says for Hakai to kill Takemichi. And that's where the anime ends off as I'm recording this. Now, if you don't want spoilers, please leave. but if you want the whole manga rundown, stay here and watch. This is what happens after the whole fight with Takemichi. Hakai joins the Black Dragons to save Takemichi, then Takemichi decides to fight the Black Dragon alone, but then Takemichi finds Shifuyu and tells him that he's from the future, and my dog Shifuyu says, "I believe you." Most heartwarming words right there. But from there on out, some stuff happens, like there's Mikey just being off and doing some weird stuff, and half of Toman was gone after the Bashi incident. Then Takemichi asks all of Toman to fight the Black Dragons, but they all decline. But out of nowhere, Kisaki returns in secret and agrees to work with Takemichi and Shifuyu, and they work together to take down Taiju, because on Christmas he is always alone. Then the next day, Takemichi is with Hinata, and Hinata says that Kisaki was the smartest in their elementary school and that Takemichi knew him too. Then Hinata confesses to Takemichi, and it was quite a nice moment until the next week, Hinata's dad told them to break up since Takemichi was a delinquent, and so Takemichi breaks up with Hinata. On Christmas night, Takemichi goes to the church where Hakai was ready to kill Taiju, but then we realize Kisaki set up Takemichi and ties Shifuyu and then alerts Taiju of everything. Taiju then starts fighting, but Hakai's sister tries to shank Taiju, but this dumbass Takemichi yells out her name. He then realizes Hakai was never the one who kills Taiju, but it was Yuzuha. Takemichi gets happy realizing he stopped Kisaki from manipulating Hakai. Then the MVP of this arc, Mitsuya, shows up and says never hit your little sister, always forgive her with a smile. Then they start fighting, but fucking Inupi comes up and hits Mitsuya with a pole from behind. Hakai tries to kill Taiju, but Takemichi stops him, then says, "Taiju, I'ma beat your ass and steal your crew." Then Takemichi actually punches Taiju, but Takemichi then gets powed. Then that famous line, "The only thing more painful than fighting is loneliness." Hakai starts crying and tells the truth that Yuzuha took double the beatings for Hakai since he was scared. Hakai then stands up ready to fight against Hakai, but he gets wrecked. Then out of nowhere, Mikey shows up and says Merry Christmas. Then Taiju one-shots Mikey. After that, there's a flashback on how the 11th Dragons were made, with Inupi trying to bring back the original Black Dragons. But then he meets Taiju and fights him, but Inupi got destroyed, and Inupi pledges him the boss. Everyone thinks Taiju beat the invincible Mikey, but Mikey gets up and says prayer time's over, and he wanted that punch to punish himself, and one-shots Taiju. Coco says the fight's over and the Black Dragons lost. Then Taiju actually goes outside to see all 100 Black Dragon soldiers knocked out by Draken. In the end, they celebrate Toman's victory. Then we have some nice chapters like Takemichi saying he loves you to Hinata, and later on Mikey tells Takemichi about his dark impulses, and that we learn the first Black Dragon's leader was his older brother. After some wholesome New Year chapters, we then get the big news, like the 10th generation Black Dragons will be under Takemichi. Then Mikey stands up and says, "Kisaki, you're fired." Which was one of the best moments in the series, and that was the start for the best arc of the series, the Tenjiku arc. A little after Kisaki was fired, Takemichi went back to the future, but he was at a funeral for Mitsuya, and Hinata was also murdered, again. Naruto speaks with Takemichi and says this was the worst future yet, and says that Hinata and all of the head Toman officers were murdered. Then Naruto says the main suspect is Mikey. Takemichi then meets Mikey and tries to talk to him. Takemichi finds him the same as ever, but with black hair. Why the fuck does everybody have black hair in the future? What is this? But basically, Mikey says everything changed, and that Takemichi should have never left Toman. My boy Mikey says, "I murked everyone, and I wanted you to stop me, Takemichi." Takemichi tries to talk him out of it, but Mikey lays him out and puts a gun to his head. Naruto shoots Mikey, killing him. Takemichi then cries and goes back in time to save everyone. In the past, Shifuyu was walking by and sees this dumbass motherfucker Takemichi fighting a tire. After some emotional moments, Takemichi says he's gonna become Toman's #1 before he goes back to the present. As all of that's happening, there's a scene with this weird ass person, and he talks to the snake himself, Kisaki. But little did we know, this weird ass person was Tenjiku's captain and Mikey's brother. Then we did some backstories of Drake and Mikey's childhood, where we meet Emma, their sister, well, Mikey's sister, not Draken's girlfriend. And we meet Child Baji. I'm gonna just skip all this boring stuff, unless for the cool part, like Takemichi accidentally telling Hinata that he time travels. And there's also the moment where the 5th Division captain betrayed Toman and joined Tenjiku. The whole story with Inupi and Toto is also pretty cool. I like that they joined under Takemichi's care. In the end, only Inupi ended up staying. Then the scene where Takemichi becomes the 11th Black Dragon leader was awesome. But nothing compares to when Kisaki fucking hit Emma with a baseball bat, killing her. That moment was way too fucked up. It was also Drayton and Mikey would not be at the final battle. And it worked. This battle was amazing anyway. I mean, as soon as they got to the battlefield, it was just straight up fighting. I mean, Payon stepping up and murking everybody was fucking awesome. Then my guy got one shot by Kurokawa. But the matchups were already on a different level of hype. And I'm just gonna say, Angry's transformation into the ogre was crazy, and he instantly defeated the Haitini brothers with the broken fucking ankle. Then that guy one punches Mochi, and even Chifuyu was having trouble against Mochi. As soon as the traitor 5th Division captain came in, it was quiet. And Angry fucking snapped his neck instantly. That ogre by himself defeated half of Tenjiku, but then this motherfucker Mucho gets back up and almost kills him with a blade. If it wasn't for Takusho, Angry would have been dead. But Takusho, that is such a weird name to pronounce. He didn't do it to save Toman, it's just that he didn't want anybody dying. And he destroys every single one of them, including Angry. Then Takusho was beating the hell out of Takemichi. Takemichi never backed down and even teased him a little bit, and Takemichi was about to fucking die, but Chifuyu stopped him and said that Toman lost. But Takemichi screams, Toman will never lose. But out of nowhere, Kisaki puts a gun straight to Takemichi's head and says he will kill him right now and Toman will lose. Takemichi then says he's not afraid, but Kisaki shoots him in the foot, but Takemichi never gives up and stands up proud. Kisaki then tells Takemichi that Tenjiku and Toman will merge, but Takemichi punches Kisaki's bitch ass mouth and says, I will beat your shitty brain until it's rotten. As Takemichi's ready to fight Kisaki, fucking Kurokawa shows up and says he will murder everyone. But as Takemichi's fighting Kurokawa, he suddenly puts his hand out like he won. Then out of nowhere, the two goats Mikey and Draken show up. Draken tells Takemichi that Hinata told him about the time travel, but it was still 200 vs 2 and Mikey for real said, you guys handicapped? But Kurokawa then faces Mikey in a one-on-one matchup, and as Mikey's getting pummeled, Mikey asks, why did you kill our sister? Then this psychopath motherfucker says, I'll burn down everything you love down with Shinichiro, and begins to pummel Mikey again, and Mikey then tells Kurokawa that he wanted to save him. Mikey then begins to pummel Kurokawa again, but this sly bitch pulled a gun on Mikey, but Kakujo punches the gun out of his hand and says they lost. But in a moment where Kurokawa was about to quit, Kisaki shot Kakusho, and as Kisaki was about to kill Kaku, Kurokawa came in and saved him while getting shot multiple times. And as Kurokawa was dying, he tells Mikey that Tenju had lost and Toman had won. As everyone's retreating, Mikey stays and tells Kisaki that he will never forgive him. And as soon as Mikey's about to hit him, Hanma gets away on a bite. But Draken tells Takemichi to get on, and they hunt Kisaki down. They finally catch up, but Takemichi's wounds start to take effect. But Draken carries him, but Hanma strikes Draken down, and so Takemichi has to run after him alone with a bullet in his foot. As soon as Takemichi catches him, Kisaki hit him with a fucking brick, but Takemichi taints it and punches Kisaki and it becomes a brawl. But Takemichi realizes this is where Hinata dies in the future, and Kisaki realizes that Takemichi is a time leaper. The truth was that Kisaki loved Hinata, but every time he proposed, Hinata rejected him, and so Kisaki would always kill her for revenge. But with that, Kisaki puts a gun to Takemichi's head, and Takemichi does a Mikey kick, making the gun fall into his hands. And as Takemichi was about to shoot Kisaki, Mikey and Hinata come, and Kisaki ran again. But it wasn't for long as Takemichi shot him down. I'm joking, but Truck Ton came and ran him over as soon as we realized Kisaki was not a time leaper, he was just a genius. As some time passes from that arc, some nice stuff happens like Toman disbanding, but nothing big until the final arc. But first, Takemichi goes back into the present and it's the best ending yet. Mikey went back to his dark impulses once again, and so Takemichi meets with Mikey one more time, but Mikey shoots Takemichi, and as Mikey is leaving Takemichi to die, he says, "I want to save you." And Mikey goes up to commit suicide, and as he jumps, Takemichi catches him and says, "I won't let you die." After some time of heartfelt moments, Mikey then tells Takemichi that he wants help, and as soon as that happens, he goes into the past once again. Jeez, this video is getting so long. I hope you guys are enjoying it, because this is taking forever. I mean, you guys might as well like and subscribe, right? You've made it this long. But let's continue the story to the final arc. But this time it's 10 years since 2 years have passed and Toman is no more. There is now 3 big games, Rokuhara, Tandai, and Brahman, and the Kanto Manji gang. We call them the 3 deities. As time moved on, everyone grows up, and so he has to do this one on himself. But him and Draken talk for a little bit, and Draken says Mike will kill Takemichi if they ever meet again. As that's happening, Inupi jumps out in front of them as they're being chased by South, one of the 3 deities. And he asks Draken to partner up with him, and Draken declines as he's with Brahman, and South pummels Draken. And as South is about to beat Takemichi, Brahman steps in the way. And that's 2 out of 3 of the deities in front of Takemichi. Takemichi soon finds out that Brahman came to recruit him, but Taku says he can't let that happen. And as Rokuhara was about to jump Brahman, someone throws an umbrella and kicks South. And it's Brahman's leader, Kawaragi, and it starts a fight. But to cut it short, after some insane fights, and just before they're about to leave, Mikey and his gang show up. But they still leave anyways, because they don't want that smoke. After some nice moments, Takemichi is now a part of Brahman as a gopher boy. Man went to temporary leader down to a gopher boy. Then we realize Kawaragi is actually a girl? But then there's some nice chapters in the end, but Takemichi gets a vision of Kawaragi dead in front of him. And we realize Takemichi can get visions of the future. Takemichi and Kawagiri go out on a date, and it was all fun and all, until Rokuhara shows up ready to kill Kawaragi and Takemichi. But he blocks all the bullets, and Draken shows up to save them. And as they ran away, Draken tells Takemichi to tell Mikey don't cause too much trouble, as Draken collapses, shot dead. One of the saddest moments in the manga for me, for real. As Draken was pronounced dead, Brahman's top members come up and say they need revenge, but Rokuhara shows up ready to fight. Then they hear a bike noise coming through. It's Mikey! All the 3 gangs are here and they're ready to fight, and as the fight started, it was insane, but South announced that he had dark impulses too and murked everyone in Brahman until Kawagiri unlocked her potential and pummeled South. While that was happening, Kakucho is fighting Mikey, and Mikey says he's empty inside and unleashes his dark impulses, and Kakucho was destroyed. Takemichi then sees a vision of South dead on the ground, but then appears Mikey. As Mikey is destroying South, Takemichi tries to stop him, but it's too late. Mikey breaks Takemichi's arm and kills South in front of everyone. And Mikey asks Takemichi how he wants to die and almost punches him to death. If it wasn't for Kawagiri sacrificing Brahman to Mikey, then Takemichi would have been killed. Shifuyu tells Takemichi that it's his fault for coming back to the present, and Takemichi agrees to do it by himself from now on. The former leaders of Toman tell Takemichi that he can use them when he wants. Takemichi declines and says he'll be fine on his own. But after some time with Hinata, Takemichi decides he will make his own team. The first person he recruits is Shifuyu, and Shifuyu accepts under one condition, that the gang is called the Thousand Winters. Which is a stupid name, but they eventually naming it Toman. Even after all of that, all former Toman leaders join Takemichi and so does Senju. Then we realize we have 50 ex-members of the Toman gang. And with that, the final battle starts as 500 vs 50. As Takujo starts fighting Takemichi, soon Takemichi wins that battle and continues on to Mikey, but Takujo gets back up and continues to fight. So many fights are happening, like Mitsuya and Hakai vs the Hatini brothers, and Inupi vs Waka, and the fucking 9th gen Black Dragon leader loses to the coward. Well, not the cowards anymore, as they're friends with Takemichi. Sanju then hit Senji with a pipe, beating her. As Inupi didn't jump by the 1st gen Black Dragon legends, he then trusts Takemichi, and Koko comes to his senses and helps out Inupi. The first person to get to Mikey was Pei, but he got whooped, but he managed to do a little Takno Jutsu to Mikey. The rest of the Toman leaders tell Mikey to dip back down there so they can fight him. And as that's happening, everyone else is losing. Then Mikey one-shots everyone, but Takemichi soon gets a vision of the railroad tracks and the train moving by Sanzu and kills everyone. As Takemichi runs to stop Sanzu, Kaku chases him, but Kaku soon sides with Takemichi to stop everyone's death. Sanzu then slashes Kaku with a fucking sword and the train starts moving. Takemichi gets on the train and fights Sanzu, and Kaku helps out by beating him. Then Takemichi gets a vision of him getting stabbed, but Takemichi uses his observation haki to dodge that shit, the time leaper. Kaku then tackles Sanzu out of the train. Kaku is then bleeding out on the train, almost about to die. But Kaku gets back up and throws Takemichi out of the train and stops it himself, with Izana's help. But Takemichi goes back on to check on Kaku, but he was already dead. Sanju then almost kills Takemichi with a sword, but this fucking goat Taiju shows up and runs over Sanju with his motorcycle. Taiju has officially joined the 2nd gen Toman, and it was all thanks to Mitsuya's help. Taiju then says that Takemichi is the only one to beat Mikey. Taiju then destroys all of Mikey's gang, but then the legends show up ready to fight Taiju. As Waka and Benkai are about to crush Taiju, Taiju stops and grabs them both and slams their head in the ground at once. Taiju is a beast. Takemichi then finally meets Mikey, and as this is happening, Sanju slashes Taiju's back with a fucking sword again. And as Takemichi is about to get jumped, Chifuyu comes to save him, but he got one-shot by Hanma. Chifuyu gets back up ready to die fighting by Takemichi's side. Everyone from Toman gets back up and is ready to fight one more time, but Mikey gets his dark impulses and starts beating the fuck out of Takemichi and Chifuyu, and then smacks Sanju and Hanma, and he starts murdering everyone on the field, including his allies. We get Mikey's backstory, and it wasn't that good if I'm being honest, but it did tell us why he never cried and stuff. But we were basically told that Mikey let Kisaki do the things like killing Baji just so he can have the darkness. But Takemichi stands up ready to fight Mikey one more time, but Mikey keeps on beating Takemichi, but he keeps on getting right back up. But Takemichi starts getting visions and starts dodging Mikey's attacks, just like observation haki. Then my boy fucking punches the invincible Mikey, and he beat Mikey to a pulp. But Mikey gets back up and starts fighting one more time, but Takemichi tries to use the Takno Jutsu, but it was not working out. Then we realized there was another time leaper in the story, and that was Mikey's brother, Shinichiro. The 1st generation Black Dragon was time leaping in order to save Mikey. He then gives the power to a hero like Takemichi. After all of that, Mikey explains that he can't hold much back any longer, but Takemichi says don't hold back and so that he can beat you. Mikey then grabs the katana and slices Takemichi up. At the end of the day, Mikey stabs Takemichi in the stomach with the katana. And this is where the bullshit starts. Takemichi hugs Mikey and says, "You are my friend," and Mikey's dark impulses suddenly disappear as he starts crying and holding on to Takemichi as he dies. Mikey then holds Takemichi's hand and they both go back into time when they were kids. Now that by itself was not a bad ending, but basically they stop all the bad stuff from happening and it all ends all happy with Hinata and Takemichi getting married. The happy ending was nice, but the reason I thought the ending was bad, and I'm sure a lot of other people do, is that it seemed really rushed. Especially with the side manga of Baji being released at the same time. It was also kind of bullshit how Sanzu changed at the end. Like, he knew all along that Mikey's brother was a time leaper, and he went from killing everyone and then trying to save Takemichi. And I feel like everything that happened in the story was just kind of useless during that time. For everything happy to happen and nothing sad or traumatic, it was just kind of pointless. But I think Tokyo Revengers was an amazing manga. It was actually my first manga to read, And I started watching it back when, I think Tenjiku ended actually. And I was rereading it for this video and it took me back and almost made me cry a couple times. Alright, I did cry a couple times. But even after all that, I felt they could have done a way better job with Tokyo Revengers ending. But that's all. This is a long video and I am sick, even though it might not sound like it right now because I am feeling better. But I gotta edit for like a week. No way am I getting this out in 3 days. But yeah, peace.